November 7th, 1947, 2:17 a.m. Abandoned warehouse basement, 142nd and 8th. Bumpy Johnson's left wrist is chained to a rusted pipe. 8 days without food. 73 hours without water. The Genovese crew thinks he's broken. They're about to unlock the chain. What happens in the next 4 minutes will rewrite Harlem's power structure. 5 made men stand between Bumpy and freedom. None of them know he's been picking the lock with his pinky finger for the past 6 days. The click they're about to hear won't come from their key. It'll come from Bumpy's side of the chain. And when that lock opens, 3 of those 5 men will never leave this basement alive. The question isn't whether Bumpy Johnson survives this. The question is how many body bags the Genovese family needs to order. 3 weeks earlier, Harlem was at a crossroads. Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson controlled the numbers racket from 110th to 155th Street. For 15 years, he'd been the undisputed king of black organized crime in Manhattan. He wasn't the loudest, he wasn't the flashiest, but every player from the Cotton Club to Small's Paradise knew one truth: you didn't move weight, run numbers, or operate a speakeasy in Harlem without Bumpy's blessing. What made him different from other crime bosses was simple. He lived in the community he controlled. He ate at Red Rooster on 138th. He got his hair cut at Benny's on Lenox. The people protected him because he protected them first. But 1947 brought change. The Italian families were expanding north from Little Italy. The commission wanted Harlem's numbers racket, worth an estimated $8 million annually. Frank Costello controlled the politicians. Vito Genovese controlled the muscle, and they'd just gotten approval from Lucky Luciano himself, sent from exile in Sicily, take Harlem by Christmas. The old arrangement where black gangsters ran black neighborhoods was ending. Integration was coming to organized crime, whether Bumpy liked it or not. The stakes were existential. If Bumpy fell, every independent black operator in New York fell with him. Harlem would become a colony, an extraction point, a place where white mobsters took the money and black communities got the violence. Every eye in the underworld was watching. This wasn't just business. This was war. Anthony the Butcher Strollo wasn't called that as a joke. He was Vito Genovese's primary enforcer, a man who'd personally killed 17 people, 9 of them with his bare hands. Strollo had a reputation from Brooklyn to the Bronx. He didn't negotiate, he eliminated. In 1945, he'd walked into a rival social club in Greenwich Village, shot 4 men in the head, finished his espresso and walked out. No one testified. No one ever testified against the Butcher. Strollo wanted Harlem's numbers operation, not a percentage, not a partnership, all of it. Bumpy represented the last obstacle between the Genovese family and complete control of Manhattan's black market gambling. To Strollo, this wasn't personal, it was structural. The commission had decided Bumpy needed to bend the knee or disappear. What made Strollo dangerous wasn't just his violence, it was his resources. He had 40 soldiers on his payroll. He had 6 NYPD detectives in his pocket. He had judges, dock workers, and politicians from City Hall to Albany. His crew moved heroin through the ports, ran protection rackets from Midtown to the Bronx, and controlled union locals worth millions in kickbacks. When Strollo wanted someone gone, they vanished. Permanently. On October 15, 1947, Strollo sent word through an intermediary. Meet at the Lenox Lounge, come alone, discuss terms, or watch your organization bleed out, 1 lieutenant at a time. Bumpy sent back a 1-word reply, no. That's when Strollo decided to make an example. Strollo's plan was elegant in its simplicity. He wouldn't kill Bumpy outright. That would make him a martyr. He'd break him first. Humiliate him, chain him like a dog in a basement, and let word spread through Harlem that their king was helpless, that he begged, that he cried. Then, when Bumpy's legend was shattered, Strollo would put a bullet in his head and dump the body on 135th Street as a message. The warehouse at 142nd and 8th Avenue had been abandoned since 1943. No windows in the basement. Concrete walls 2 feet thick. The nearest neighbor was 4 blocks away. Strollo had used this location twice before. Both times, the men who entered didn't leave. On October 30th at 9:15 p.m., 3 of Strollo's men grabbed Bumpy outside his apartment building on 409 Edgecombe Avenue. They used chloroform, a burlap sack, and a Cadillac with tinted windows. By 9:47 p.m., Bumpy was chained to a pipe in the basement. The chain was padlocked. The key stayed with Strollo. 5 guards rotated 8-hour shifts, no food, limited water, psychological torture. Day 1, Bumpy sat silent. The guards taunted him, called him finished, told him Harlem was already being divided up. Vincent Chin Gigante was taking over his numbers spots. His lieutenants were being offered deals or graves. Bumpy said nothing, just stared at the wall with those cold, dark eyes that had intimidated men for 20 years. Day 3, they stopped giving him water. His lips cracked, his voice went hoarse. Still, he didn't beg. Strollo visited on day 4, squatted in front of Bumpy and said, "You could have lived like a king if you'd just bent the knee." Bumpy spat blood at his feet. Strollo laughed. "You got 3 days left. Then I'm putting you down like the dog you are." Day 6 at 3:14 a.m., one guard swore he saw Bumpy's hands moving near the chain. But when he checked at 3:16, Bumpy's wrist was still locked. The guard shrugged it off. Sleep deprivation playing tricks. Day 8, November 7th. The basement smelled like rust, urine, and damp concrete. Overhead, a single bulb flickered. 5 men sat playing cards at a table 15 feet from Bumpy. Tony Marchesi, Sal Romano, Bobby Del Vecchio, Frank the Fixer Costanza, and Joey Baggs, who'd brought sandwiches from a deli on Amsterdam Avenue. The guards were relaxed. This was easy money, babysitting a dying legend. At 2:15 a.m., Strollo called, "It's time. Put 2 in his head. Clean it up. Dump him at the Apollo Theater." At 2:16, Tony Marchesi stood up, pulled his .38 revolver, and walked toward Bumpy. At 2:17, he was 3 feet away when he heard it. Click. The sound of a lock opening. What Tony Marchesi didn't know was that Bumpy Johnson had picked locks since he was 12 years old. What none of them knew was that Bumpy had been working on that padlock for 6 straight days, using his pinky finger, bending the nail back until it bled, feeling every tumbler, every pin, every microscopic movement inside the mechanism. He'd been a student of Clarence Clockwork Williams, Harlem's best lockman, who taught him that any lock could be beaten with patience, pressure, and pain tolerance. Bumpy had all 3. On November 2nd, 72 hours into captivity, Bumpy felt the first tumbler give. On November 4th, the second. On November 6th, the third. By November 7th at 2 a.m., only 1 pin remained. He'd been waiting for the right moment, when they were distracted, when they felt safe, when their guard was down. The phone call was the signal. When Strollo said it's time, Bumpy knew they'd come close. So he pressed his pinky into the lock mechanism one final time, felt the 4th tumbler shift, and the padlock clicked open. But here's the genius. Bumpy kept the chain on his wrist, kept his hand in the same position, let Tony Marchesi walk toward him with the gun raised, let him get close enough to smell the blood on Bumpy's cracked lips, let him aim the .38 at Bumpy's forehead. And then, at 2:17 and 42 seconds, Bumpy moved. The chain whipped off his wrist. The padlock, still attached, swung like a mace and caught Tony Marchesi across the temple. Skull cracked. He dropped. Bumpy caught the falling. Before it hit the ground, 2 shots. Sal Romano, chest. Bobby Del Vecchio, throat. 3 seconds, 3 men down. Frank Costanza scrambled for his piece, but Bumpy was already moving. A knee to the ribs, an elbow to the face. The .38 pressed against Frank's forehead. "Tell Strollo I'm coming for him," Bumpy whispered. Then he pulled the trigger. Joey Baggs ran, made it to the stairs. Bumpy let him go, let him tell the story, let him spread the word through every social club and back room in Little Italy. Bumpy Johnson broke free with 1 finger, killed 4 made men, and he's walking out of this basement like a king. Bumpy stood in the center of the room, blood-spattered, half-starved, holding a smoking gun. He pulled a cigarette from Tony Marchesi's pocket, lit it with a match from Sal Romano's coat, took a drag, and said to the corpses, "You came to Harlem thinking you were wolves. But wolves don't survive in a jungle, and I'm the apex predator." By 3 a.m., Joey Baggs was at Strollo's social club on Mulberry Street, hyperventilating. He killed them, all of them, with his bare hands, and Tony's gun. He walked out, like it was nothing. Strollo's face went white, then red, Then he smashed a glass against the wall and screamed, "Every soldier we have, find him, bring me his head." But the word was already out. By sunrise, every made man in New York knew Bumpy Johnson had survived the impossible. 4 Genovese soldiers dead. Bumpy disappeared into Harlem like a ghost into fog. Within 72 hours, the commission called an emergency meeting. Frank Costello himself intervened. "This war costs more than Harlem's worth. We lose 10 men trying to kill one, we look weak." Vito Genovese protested, but the numbers didn't lie. Bumpy had allies, resources, and now, legend. The commission voted cease hostilities. Bumpy keeps Harlem. The Italians get a taste of the profits, 20%, but operational control stays with Johnson. Anthony Strollo never forgave the humiliation. But he never moved against Bumpy again, because everyone in the underworld understood the message: you don't cage a lion and expect it to forget. Bumpy's reputation after November 7th wasn't just fearsome, it was mythical. The man who broke chains with one finger, the man who killed 4 armed soldiers with their own weapons, the man who walked out of his own execution and lit a cigarette over the bodies. Harlem stayed independent for another decade, because of 8 days in a basement, because of one pinky finger, because of Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. That night redefined what power meant in organized crime. It wasn't just about guns or soldiers or political connections, it was about will, about refusing to break when every rational person would. Bumpy's escape became the standard by which every gangster measured toughness. For the next 20 years, made men told the story in social clubs from Chicago to Las Vegas. And every time, the lesson was the same: preparation, patience, and precision beat brute force. Bumpy didn't win because he was stronger. He won because he was smarter. What separated Bumpy from other crime bosses was his philosophy. Carlo Gambino ruled through fear, Lucky Luciano through organization, Frank Costello through corruption. But Bumpy ruled through respect earned in the hardest currency, survival. He didn't demand loyalty, he inspired it. By living through what would have killed anyone else. By turning a death sentence into a power move. By proving that chains, guns, and numbers didn't matter if your mind stayed free. Real power isn't about how many men you control. It's about what you do when you're alone, chained, starving, and staring death in the face. Bumpy Johnson understood that before he picked his first lock. He proved it with one finger. If this story showed you why Bumpy Johnson was the most dangerous man in Harlem, hit subscribe, drop a like if you respect the hustle and the strategy. Comment below what would you have done chained in that basement? Next week, the night Bumpy walked into the Cotton Club and made Lucky Luciano himself back down. You don't want to miss that.